Are live. You are live. It says right there. You are live.
You're alive.
Okay. So everybody's logged in so far that we know of. All right. Oh,
One more.
or somebody else come in?
Maybe we'll find out who it is.
Yep, that's down here.
It's Pastor David.
Pastor David.
Hey,
Yep. Hey, we just went live.
okie dokie.
All right. So let me go this way. Go this way. Boom. Helps me read. All right. All right.
Don't you start.
I know you. Okay. I can pray in for a time. Huh? Okay. 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 I want to watch them.
It's them, not me.
They're just there's just canned pictures.
Yeah, nobody wants to go live with their face.
Right. All right. I guess we'll pray in and get started with this tonight. You guys ready?
Yep.
All right. Lord, we ask you to be with us tonight as we go through the banners, the ensigns, and the staves. Open our hearts and our minds to your word, and the words that you want me to say. We say these things in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
All right. So tonight we're on the fifth page of the what do you call it? The presentation, and it's called "The Ensigns on the Staves." And it's kind of like a little bit of a review, real quick. The 12 tribes were divided up into 4 sections. You see it right?
No, I have to look on yours.
Okay.
This is so I can see if anybody makes a
All
comment.
right. There you
That's
go.
all.
Anyway, the purpose of illustrating this talk more effectively, the ensigns have been rearranged as follows because they're not listed this way, but it makes it much easier if you have a description like I say this on the east side of the temple. Then you know that Judah and uh, Issachar and Zebulun are on the east, right? If I say the south, you'll have Reuben, Simeon, and Gad.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
No.
I just want you to kind of just recap what happened last week because it was at the very end of the Bible study, and some people may not have seen it.
Okay.
Just a quick recap, right?
Yeah. Let me go back a page. I was recapping the. There's symbolic references to the 12 tribes throughout the Bible, and we did the correlation between the fact that there's 12 stones on the the ephod, the holy vest of the Levites, and the 12 stones of Mount Carmel. There's 12 in King Solomon's temple in Jerusalem. There was 12 bronze bulls and 12 bronze lions in the entryway. Anyway, what we're trying to do is I'm giving a little history previously on the 12 tribes and who they were. And we're going to go through each tribe here in just a little bit. And it's related to chapter 48 in Genesis. Mm-hmm. The whole chapter is about the blessings and the to each tribe, which were the 12 children of Jacob. Okay. And we're looking at all these, and I have some other verses here later that will correspond, but it tells us that it's important to know your heritage or your inheritance, and that's mostly that's also earthly as well as spiritual inheritance, right? And if we know what tribes we would fall under, it can give you better information on
our blessings
and talents. Yes.
Okay.
Right. So that's one reason.
Okay.
Okay. And also, it's very important in the end times, which I have some more references later here about through the New Testament, even through Revelation, what the 12 tribes will be doing.
Doesn't he say that we need to know our inheritance?
You need to know your inheritance.
Okay.
today we don't say inheritance, we say our heritage
Heritage.
or ancestry. Okay.
Okay.
So the reason we want to go through those is I'm going to explain them, but also want to point out that the south was Reuben, Simeon, and Gad, and then the west side of the temple was Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin, and then the north was Dan, Asher, and how you say Naphtali. Okay, so there's importance here, and Dave last week, Dave Maish, you brought up Pastor Dave, you brought up the picture of the cross, which was the formation that they traveled in the desert with, right? Whoop, I'm going too fast here. Back up. Anyway, so the banners or the banners or ensigns. It's how they're arranged around the altar. Okay, no, not a problem, bud. I have one later on in here, so we can look at it later, and I'll explain a little better. Anyway, these banners were to help the people know where to camp at night.
Right.
Right. Also, it was formed protection around Moses and Aaron and the temple, the traveling temple. Okay.
Was it Levi that was in the center?
Levi was also in the center. Yes. Okay. So they were regularly set up, and the tribes would assemble and pitch their tents around that particular banner of that tribe or family. Mm-hmm. Right. Also, it was to take head count, to make sure everybody was accounted for. Because you're traveling through a desert and you have enemies around you. Mm-hmm. You don't want to lose somebody or a child or a family or something. So it was also for protection. Okay. So the ensigns are the distinctive bearings of the 12 tribes of Israel and are figurative of the particular blessings bequeathed. There you go. That's a good picture.
I like that one better.
Yes. Can you guys see it on yours?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So if you notice, the cloud would be in the center over the temple, mm-hmm. right? And that would allow them to protect all of that, right? But it also forms a cross, as you can see. Okay.
Yeah, and didn't Pastor Dave, didn't you talk about it, the strongest being on the outside last week? Right. So to the east would be Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun, mm-hmm. right? Do you notice that Judah has a larger group? Yeah, there's more protection towards the temple.
Dan has more, right? Ephraim would have had, it allows more bodies to be between the temple, right?
I see him.
All right. Yeah. Simeon is there. Yeah. Simeon over here, Reuben, Gad. Then Ephraim and Manasseh and Benjamin would be on the west. Okay.
Which is protected by the water from what I can see there.
That's mountains and water, yeah. Mm-hmm. But they would have been traveling east. Mm-hmm. So it would have, this group, Zebulun would have led out in a formation. And they would have moved in units like that. Okay. So it was.
That's just the sky.
Yeah, the sky probably sky. Back there. Okay. Yeah. They probably run out of water because they had to strike a rock. Remember? Yeah. Anyway, okay. Where's my presentation? All right. There we go. It's back. Thank you. Whoop.
Oh, did you want? Yes, God.
That's fine. I just got to go back to the right page here. All right. So, Jacob gave these blessings, and like I said, it's recorded in Genesis chapter 49, which is included later in this presentation. I actually put it in there for people to read that don't have it or want to read it later. But so it's in there. Not only was it a blessing, it was a revelation concerning the character and future achievements of the tribes. So we'll actually break some of this down as we go through the 4 divisions, and that will help everybody understand. And they're further pointed out in the book of Numbers as well as Genesis. Okay. And then you'll see them in through time periods we'll see them more and more often. So we'll go through it. So there's 4 divisions. As I stated earlier, was Judah, Reuben, Ephraim, and Dan. The principal banners of these 4 tribes are shown as the east is a lion.
Judah's the lion?
Yeah, Judah's a lion. Yeah. Reuben was a man. Ephraim was an ox. And Dan was the eagle, right, on the east side. Anyway, we'll go through. Let me go through these right quick. All right. So we'll start out on the east side. So Judah, which is messed up there, but anyway, there's a lion content surmounted by a crown and a scepter on a crimson background. Okay. And this great banner was in the charge of its captain, Nahshon, the prince of Judah at the time. Okay. So it would be carried down in history that way. Lion is always symbolic of what? Strength,
power,
right?
Leadership,
right. Leadership, all those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
The scepter is always what?
Law
and authority, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So Issachar was an ass bending beneath its burden on a sky blue background, right? In other words, he carried the burden of Israel, right? Something that would be able to carry the burden, and travel distance.
Why is Issachar in this one?
No, that's the 4 tribes. That one's a separate one. That one's a separate one.
Yeah,
that was.
You don't have Reuben and Ephraim.
They're in the next one.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. If you go back, I'll go back on there, right? In the south, Reuben, Ephraim is in this. I just gave you the first 4 is all I did.
Judah, Reuben, Ephraim, and Dan.
Right. That's east, south, west, and north. They would be the leaders of each group.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
These are the leaders, so not the east side.
Right. Right. So let's go. Now I'll go to, and we're going to do the east side to begin with. On the east side.
I feel like there's going to be a test.
There's going to be. There's going to be a challenge here.
Reuben is the man, Ephraim is the ox.
Yep, and Dan is eagle.
Right. All right. So,
Sorry.
I like the standard bearer of its captain of the time period was Nathaniel, prince of Issachar, right? At the time they called them princes. All they were was leaders, the head of the formation that would, but they were people in charge to get the group moving, right? And then Zebulon is a ship in haven on a purple background, and it was carried by Elab, which was the prince at the time of Zebulon. Okay.
So Issachar is a beast of burden.
A beast of burden, right? Okay. All right. So I'm going to give a little more explanation now on this one. Can you see? Judah, the chief tribe, was eminently distinguished for its prosperity, both in peace and war. Its dignity was emphasized by divine favor and the Almighty selecting David from this tribe to be the instrument of his blessings to the people of Israel. So King David came from the tribe of Judah. Okay. And it says, a scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh comes. Okay, that's Christ. Okay. To this tribe was assigned the most honorable station in the camp. That in the east, at the entrance to the tabernacle, this tribe numbered 74,600. That's a large tribe. That'd be a lot of people to get moving, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
I can't even get
4 people to move.
4 kids to get out of bed. You know what I mean?
So we'll go to Issachar, right? This symbol of the banner was an ass, a patient animal properly adopted as an emblem of labor. And you said that, a beast of burden, right? It is written that the posterity of Issachar sat down quietly upon the land allotted to them, cultivating it with diligence. Cultivators, right? Right. So at the time period,
Adam.
Much like Adam, right? Okay. They were lovers of peace and quietness rather than war or mercantile pursuits, and yielded with submission to tyranny and oppression rather than endeavor to assert themselves in battle.
Okay.
You always need the ones that support the other ones, right? In the group.
They were probably the negotiators.
Yeah, they would be your peacemakers, right? Or
Peacemakers, yeah.
right. All right. And that tribe numbered 54,400.
Issachar?
Issachar. Okay.
And that's part of the tribe of Judah. So is that 54,400 part of the 74,600?
No, separate.
It's in addition to.
In addition to.
Okay.
Right. And as you see, when we get to the bottom here, we don't. Anyway, they Zebulon means deviler. Anyway, device a ship in haven alludes to the prophecy. Zebulun shall deal securely at the haven of the sea, safe from storms and perils. And he shall be a haven for ships, and his border shall he unto Zidian, which means on the coast.
Safe haven.
Safe haven. Okay. And that tribe numbered 57,400. So the total encampment on the east totaled 186,400 people.
And what was on his? You have the
His
lion
background.
and the
His is a ship.
The Zebulon is a ship.
A ship. And a safe harbor, which means no stormy seas, just, a calm area. Okay. Now, on the south side, I went east to south. Okay. We have Reuben. And his principal banner was a figure of a man on a red banner. It had a red background with a man on it. Okay. On the smaller banner, you would have waves or a heaving waste of water, sometimes with man too. And this great banner was in charge of it was Captain Elzar. Okay. So we have a man on a red banner.
Okay.
Right. Now Simeon and Levi were together. Right. They have a sword or cross sword, sometimes with a tower on a yellow background. Okay. And it was Shemel was a prince of Simeon at the time. Okay. And then we have Gad, a troop of horsemen on a white background. Okay. Now, I'm going to get into Reuben now a little bit. I just gave you a real quick background on those three. Okay. Do you got all three?
We have Reuben is man.
Right.
Simeon and Levi is a cross sword.
Right.
And a tower.
Right.
And Gad is horseman.
Horseman. Right.
White
background.
White background.
Okay. All right. Now, let's go back to Reuben real quick here. His device was a man, or his symbol was a man, right? Mm-hmm. Because he was the firstborn of his father. Okay. He would have enjoyed the prerogatives of the firstborn, except in the excellence of dignity and the excellence of power, according to his just claim, if he had not forfeited them by offense, which led Jacob to say, unstable as water, thou shalt not excel. You won't be first.
Which is why his is man.
Right. Jacob meant by that his self-will and his wantonness would render Reuben unstable and untrustworthy. So the red banner depicts a heaving waste of water in allusion to the prophecy. Right. So what you'll see is ripples in the background. Right. Does that make sense? Now, this is the old Hebrew symbols. There's more modern ones today.
So is there a blessing in that?
Not really. He forfeited all his rights and reduced to an inferior position among the tribes. And if you go and it says Reuben, you defiled his bed, right? There it goes.
Did it go to Simeon?
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
A bit later. So Simeon and Levi, right? And they were represented by instruments of war, as we all know, right? A sword, and then later on it would be a dagger, okay? In allusion to the horns testified by the dying patriarch of the cruelty of those two sons and the barbarous murder of the Shemonites. Remember? They killed the whole town. Under the assurance of kindness and good faith, they tricked them, right? So, Father, therefore, cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. I will divide them Jacob said, and scatter them in Israel. Okay. What happens if you put a bunch of angry people together?
It's like putting 3 dogs together
Yeah.
that are loose.
Right? They become a pack.
Yes.
Right. So he divided them up. Right. And gave them different positions. Okay.
So these Simeon and Levi also did not get a blessing because of their anger.
Because of their anger, right? So in the fulfillment of the prophecy, the tribe of Simeon had few possessions in the promised land, but dwelt in the midst of Judah. So they were
interspersed,
right? Some of them wandering afield in search of a dwelling place. As for the tribe of Levi, it was utterly dispersed among the other tribes and devoted to the service of the altar.
right?
They weren't. Yeah.
So Simeon was the origin of the gypsies.
We'll find out later.
They never settled.
They're always looking for a dwelling place. Anyway. So did Abraham. But anyway, we'll go back. Anyway, the Levites were responsible for erecting and dismantling the tabernacle on each move, right?
So that was recompense for their anger.
For their anger.
Okay.
Right. So the tribe numbered 59,300. Right.
How many were in Reuben's?
Okay.
Did you put that one in there?
I don't know if I put it. I forgot to say. Yeah, 45,000.
What?
Reuben, the total number in Reuben?
43,700.
Yeah. 500, 700. It's pretty, it's about, I think he's right. I think I have that.
43,700.
Yeah.
According to numbers 26.
Yeah. I was trying to pull them out as I was going along.
Oh, well, you were going to recap it at the end anyway.
Yes,
so.
right. So Gad is the next one. And Gad signifies a troop, and therefore their device was that of a troop of horsemen. Okay? The dying patriarch foretold the difficulties to be encountered by the posterity of Gad in the words, Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. So he's going to be suppressed by his enemies, but he'll overcome them. Does that make sense? Okay, how it reads there.
It's in Genesis 49:19.
It's in Genesis, right?
God will be attacked by a band of raiders, but he will attack them at their heels.
At their heels, he'll chase them out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he'll overcome. So let me go on with this, right? In the fulfillment of the prophecy, the tribe occupying a country beyond and to the east of Jordan were exposed to attacks by the Amorites. Remember that from Isaiah, right? From whom they suffered heavily, but as a result of the military talent of Jephthah, the Amorites were finally subdued. In other words, they put up resistance and then conquered their enemy. But they suffered heavily in the battle, okay? But they survived. So Gad would always be the one. It's kind of like the Marines. They go into the battle first. They have the heaviest casualties.
I was thinking army, but yeah, because they're ground troops. But
yeah.
these are horse troops.
Horse troops, right? Okay. So the tribe of Gad was only 45,650, right? So all that were numbered in that group altogether, right, was 151,450. Is that correct, Dave? Or does it give a total?
For Gad?
Yeah. No, for all of them.
But this says 40,500.
Okay, so that's where the difference is.
618.
Yeah, I think it was different times they were counted.
This is as they're going into
the promised land.
Promised.
Okay, all right. So
that's 40 years.
40 years later. Yeah.
40 years later, which is not
current Genesis time period.
Just coming
out of Egypt, right?
How many people
did they lose in that?
Did they lose? Did not
right
have babies? And it's only according to this is when God ordered them to be numbered. It was only 23 years old and older
right?
Men.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay.
Right. This was not counting the women, children. battle
of age,
of
what we would consider
service.
uh,
old enough to join the military.
correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Military age.
Okay. So now we're going to do the west side. Okay.
West side.
Story, the west side story, right? All right. So Ephraim, he's an ox depicted on a green background. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the captain in charge of his was Elshama, and he was the prince of Ephraim. Manasseh is a flesh-colored banner showing a vine planted by a wall, right? And Ganal was the prince of Manasseh at the time. And Benjamin is a wolf on a green banner. And Abidan, it was the prince of Benjamin at the time, right? And we're going into more information on Ephraim right now, right? So Ephraim stepped into the inheritance of his father Joseph, right? He was the son of Joseph. By the time
So was
Manasseh. Right. Both of these are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he was elevated into one of the leading tribes of Israel. His green banner was consecrated with the figure of a cherub, emblem of the deity, that is to say, an ox, which denotes patient industry and strength. Ephraim is the strength of my head. Let him grow into a multitude. Ephraim's host numbered 40,500. Okay. And Ephraim is the strength of mine head. The strength of your head is what? The ability to think things through, right? To plan, to. He was very intelligent,
Well, his father was Joseph.
his father was Joseph, right? Okay, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why he has the ox. Okay. Now Manasseh, as we know, is the vine on the flesh-colored banner. Jacob's statement: Joseph is a fruitful bough by a wall, shooting forth two luxuriant branches, referred to as the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh. Right, and the prediction was fulfilled by their future preeminence. I should here point out that on his deathbed, Jacob specially blessed Joseph's son Ephraim and Manasseh. And the distribution of land, these two replaced Joseph and Levi. That's why Levi didn't have any property. Remember you asked about that before? Because they were in service of the temple.
They replaced Joseph and Levi?
And Levi. Manasseh replaced Levi and Joseph. Ephraim. Okay. All right.
Because Joseph was married to Egyptian.
Yes, right. So there still remained 12 tribes this way. You take 2 out, you added 2 in, right? All right. And their number was only 32,200. I like Benjamin.
So Manasseh was fruitful, you said?
Yes, a fruitful bough. He was whatever he grew was produced. Midas touch, right? Right. All right. So Benjamin, he bore a green banner with the device of a wolf on it, right? To indicate the warlike nature of the tribe. Of them, Jacob prophesied, Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. He's going to take care of his family, his tribe. Does that make sense?
So he was a protector?
He's a very cunning, very intelligent, but he takes care of the pack.
Okay.
Okay.
He didn't get a fox, huh?
No, he didn't get a fox. The wolf is more aggressive. Yeah. Right. All right. So anyway, although Benjamin's youngest son was a favorite of the patriarch, Jacob conferred no particular on him, owing to the fierce and warlike character of his people. Benjamin's descendants were cruel and vindictive and always fighting. They waged war single-handedly against all the other tribes, defeating them in battle, until eventually they made common cause against Benjamin. The military Saul, whose life was spent in battle and who was finally slain in conflict, sprang from this tribe.
Mm.
Do you remember Saul? King Saul?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's from that tribe.
Okay.
And the tribe numbered 35,400. So a total of the camp of Ephraim was 108,100. These numbers are getting to climb up there, aren't they? These are 23 years and older. It's not counting women and children or elderly. All right. We're going to do the north side now. You want me to wait a minute while you do some adding?
350,000 so far,
Right.
approximately.
Approximately, right? Okay. So Dan, the tribe of Dan.
Hey, Dan.
Hey. A green banner with a horse and rider. But also you'll see some on some of the Ensigns, there's a snake at the heel of the horse, biting the heel of the horse.
Did you originally say it was eagle?
Yeah, later on that comes up. Okay.
So it's what is it again?
This one, the original banner was a horse and a rider with a serpent biting the heels of the horse.
Okay.
Okay. Sometimes with an eagle in the background. That's why that came up. Okay. Because if you're on a horse, right, you got a serpent biting your heel, aren't you going to take flight? That's what it symbolized.
Okay.
Okay. All right. And then Asher. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Asher is a cup on a tree or on a purple background. Right. You'll see a cup set in the branches of a tree or something, right? Okay. And then Nephtali is a figure of a hind on a blue background, or that's a hind is what? You guys remember what that was?
Isn't that like an elk or something?
A deer or an elk, something, yeah.
So this is-
Right? What'd you say, Dave?
Oh, we're trying to find a picture of all
Okay,
these,
We have pictures of it.
hang on a second.
but it's kind of weird because
Just go to the 12 tribes of Israel.
Okay. Look at this one.
some of them are different.
Well, okay, now if you look at the one I just brought up on the screen,
Yep.
you see Reuben has the water in the background and then the man on the other side.
Yep.
It would have been one side would have been the man and the other side would have been the water.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Simeon with the castle and the sword. Right?
Yeah, some of them are
Yeah.
okay. So the castle's on one side and the sword's on another.
Right. Okay. You understand what's Dan has the eagle and the snake and the horse, right?
Eagles in the background.
Eagles in the
Yeah,
background.
that shows the snake. Okay.
Okay, you kind of get the picture now?
Yeah, I get it. So they're two-sided.
Yes. That's what people didn't realize at the time. They have two sides to them. Okay.
Yeah, because this one has Simeon with a red background and looks like an ox or something. But
Right. Simeon? Yeah.
Simeon is. But most of them have a castle.
Right. Well, that played in later on as it as the areas and the area where they were living in at the time, the descendants that was brought into existence later. Anyway,
Okay.
that's just so you guys can see it.
We found one that looks exactly like you're describing, but
Okay.
it's got astrology stuff next to it. So I don't want to bring that up.
Not yet, please. Oh, thank you.
I just put the 12 tribes of Israel and then
You're talking about
on my phone.
That
and
one.
It came right. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that one we found. So,
Right.
but now we know that's the other side of the thing. That's just
the other
one
side of it,
Mm-hmm.
because this one has the snake on the front,
But not the horse.
but not the horse. It's on the back.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and there's a little castle. So the other side of that would be the.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Gotcha. That now. Yeah. Okay.
It makes more sense.
Yeah. Lisa's shaking her head too. She gets it now.
Okay.
That
Great.
makes
Good. I'm glad.
They didn't have silk screening. They couldn't. Or
Right. Well, that would confuse her. Yeah. Right.
Mm.
They
I'm
have,
getting back.
all these were stitched probably.
Hey, Lisa.
So
There's
Yeah.
an idea.
I gotta get back.
Can we do it on white shirts though?
Okay. Right.
Just
I'm on Asher, right? On
Yeah.
white shirts makes it so much easier, right?
Actually,
right.
Yeah, I'm on Asher.
Nephilim.
Oh, Nephilim? Okay.
well,
So,
you were here.
Yeah.
oh, right
Now
there.
you're starting to.
I'm starting Dan, right?
Yeah.
So, Dan, the tribe was the largest and most powerful next to that of Judah. So they had Judah on the front and Dan on the back side.
Okay.
And he would protect the rear of the tribe, the movement,
Okay.
right? I would call them in later days or in the United States, they would be the ones that were, what do you call them? The wranglers that rode the dust of the cattle as they come up the trail.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't think about that.
Okay. Anyway, so what we have is
Did you say 62,000?
62,700.
yeah, I haven't got to the end of it yet, but it's 62,700, right? But the name Dan signifies judging. Therefore, Jacob said, Dan, those are okay. Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel, meaning that the tribe should be the head of one of the great divisions of the wilderness crossing, right? The patriarch added, Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path that biteth the horse's heel, so that its rider follows backwards. So it means it's behind, right? The tribe of Dan were ringleaders of idolatry and were the first who apostatized from God.
Mm. Really?
Yep.
So they became judgmental
Yes.
instead of judging.
Judging. Mm-hmm.
I thought they were better than that.
Yes. And they got a big head. Right? Anyway, okay. So let's go to Asher.
You haven't said anything nice about anybody yet.
Asher, the word Asher. Do what now?
I said you haven't said anything nice about anybody yet.
Jacob was very blunt with his children,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So Asher means fortune or happy, right? The tribe was promised a tract in the Holy Land, which would be fruitful and prolific. Jacob said, out of Asher his bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties. Right? The tribe produced the necessities of life in abundance, and Mount Carmel, which was in their territory, abounded in the choicest fruits.
Okay.
There we go.
You know, remember the milk and honey?
Mm-hmm.
They got that blessing.
Why did they like Asher?
He was the
Asher's food will be rich. He will provide delicacies fit for a king.
king, right?
Okay.
All right. Nephtali, Jacob's prophecy,
Oh, nice.
is a hind let loose. He giveth goodly words, denoted that the prosperity of Nephtali should be spirited and free people, and that the tribe should be fruitful, undergo a prodigious increase. They would greatly increase. Thus, from 4 sons which Nepali brought with him into Egypt, there proceeded upwards of 50,000 descendants when they were emancipated from their captivity. They become celebrated for swiftness and pursuit. Their portion was in the upper Galilee region, a country always noted for the production of its soil. Okay. The tribe numbered 53,700.
And how many in Asher?
Okay, back to Asher. 41,500. So all that were numbered in the camp of Dan was 157,600. Now remember, this is 23 years and older. At the time, the Israelite nation numbered some 603,550. Over 500,000
Okay,
men.
I got all my statistics.
You got your statistics. All right, there's going to be a test later.
I've got as long as it's open book, I'm good.
Okay. All right. So, yes.
Between your numbers and the numbers I got,
Right? Is there
there's a
difference?
difference
Uh-huh.
of 2,220.
I wonder how many fell in the crack.
From Genesis to Numbers, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're doing?
There would have been
Right.
Increase or decrease?
The
decrease. Yeah.
The last
Really?
2,000.
200%.
Right. So there is a difference there, right? But if to move this number of people safely through a hostile territory,
There's pressure.
along with their goods and chattels, would prove a major logistical problem today, let alone 2,000 years ago.
Correct.
Can you imagine trying to just feed and water that many people?
Ugh.
Right? So it forms, that's why I got the rough image that it forms the cross. And if you look on this rough, it's kind of rough. You see the line of Judah in the lead down there? You got the eagle and the snake or and the horse, right? You got the face of man on that side, and then the back would be Ephraim's emblem of the one to bear the load, right?
Beast of burden.
Beast of burden, right? So that's the four ensigns that form the cross, right?
Okay.
Now, I've got it up here. We're not going to read this whole thing because there's 31 verses in here. But for anybody that's following up that wants to go through and read it, I put the whole chapter of 49 in here.
Okay.
And it's the prophecy of Jacob to his sons, okay? And it's for you guys to read on your own. I'm not going to try to read all of that tonight. That's a lot. All right. So you'll see them all in there. So we're going to talk about the 12 flags of Israel now. We're going to
But
get
this Bible study is about homework, huh?
well. There's a little bit
Read
there.
chapter 49.
Yeah.
Genesis chapter
It will help you
49.
understand it.
Before next Bible study.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. The authority has spoken. It wasn't me. All right.
Where does that put me?
Well, it's either going to be Judah or it's going to be the other one, Ephraim. I was in there somewhere. Yeah. Anyway. All right. So back to this picture here. This isn't black and white. I know it's kind of hard to see, but it definitely will help you understand after we go through that. Did you notice they added one more picture down here on this one? David, the harp,
Right.
the music. Most of David's writings or history is music.
So he should have actually been a flag that was added to the Judah flag.
Well, as king in Israel, it would have been added. He would have added his own emblem, right? Okay. So anyway, that's just to give you guys some pictures, right? All right. So I'm going to do some vocabulary. I think it's important that I clear up some of this stuff, especially if you go back and read some of the Old Hebrew, or some of the Old Testament, the original Old Testament, 1611, right? In the Old Testament, 3 different Hebrew words are used to designate a standard or banner. So that's what threw people off when they're trying to follow it, okay? Often they seem to be synonymous, but broader usage allows one to make certain distinctions between them. And that's why I wanted to tell you about these distinctions, because as we get into our heritage and our research later, you're going to come across a banner, and it may not be called a banner. It may be called something else. So we're going to look at that. So a deagle, D-E-G-E-L, is used for the standard or ensign of each of the 4 large divisions of the tribes of Israel encamped. Remember the ones that you had, the first 4 you had, the 4 main ones? That's called a deagle. Right?
So this is the overarching, basically.
Yes. Right. So you'll have the people of Israel shall pitch their tents by their companies, every man by his own camp, and every man by his own standard. Okay. So they would put up one big one first, and then the other ones would put up theirs to signify the next 3 tribes. Okay. And that's found in numbers, like you said,
Like the
152.
United States of America flag.
Right. And then the state flags.
Arizona flag, the California flag.
Right. All right, does that make sense? You guys follow that one? Okay. All right. So I put in there the standard Judah was E on the east side of the camp. Reuben's was on the south. Ephraim's on the west, and that of Dan on the north. Right. Thus did people of Israel according to all that the Lord commanded Moses. So they encamped by their standards, and so they set out everyone in his family according to his father's house. Right. Yeah. So if you were getting ready to move, Judah would take up the first part of the movement. They'd be the first ones in the group to start moving in the morning. But they would also set the standard for where they stopped at night. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's called a degel or degel, right? I don't know how you say it in Hebrew, but it's spelled Degel, degel. Okay. It appears from this degel designates a larger group or division of people. So it's organized and around a central goal. And no doubt the armies of Israel marched in this fashion to the promised land. Right? In Psalms 25, it says, the Gel becomes a battle flag. May we shout for joy over victory and the name of our God set up our banners.
Psalm 25?
Yes, Psalm 25. Psalms 20, verse 5. Yeah. I got to get some tighter teeth. You don't have this all in your head.
No. That's why I'm writing it down on paper.
Right. 25. What does it say?
May we shout for joy over your victory and lift up our banners in the name of our God.
Yep. Okay. That's in the.
May the Lord grant all your requests.
May the Lord grant all your requests. Right. So God set all this up. That's why it's so important. It has meaning. It has purpose, and not only in the Old Testament times, but even in the New Testament times, it will have meaning and a purpose. And we need to understand the old so we'll understand the new. Right? Does that make sense? Okay. So in the Song of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 4, it says, however, it is used in a beautiful figure of love. He brought me to the banqueting house, and his banner over me was love. Right?
Mm-hmm.
In the Song of Solomon, who's he talking about?
He's talking about his love for his bride.
Yes. Aren't we the bride of Christ?
About her
husband's
love
love
for
for her. Yes.
That's what the Song of Solomon is about. It is about love
Love
between a husband
And a wife, right?
It's already written down.
Yeah, I put it in. Sorry. What does yours say? Pretty close. Should be the same interpretation, right? All right. The word Ness is the next word. N-E-S is translated ensign or standard in the English Bible, but it refers more specifically to a rallying point for the people. It marks the center of attraction on which people should pin their hopes. In other words, so they would have the big one, and then they would have the specific tribe banner. It's called a nest. So a rally around this point. This is where we're camping, right? Does that make sense? Battle, right? There you go. Generally, such a signal was raised on some special occasion, always on a high elevation and very conspicuous. Moses called the altar of Thanksgiving after Amalek's defeat Jehovah Nissa, or Jehovah my banner, right? It was a rallying point. It was a rally around God, right? All right, Messiah himself became such a standard and a rallying point of nations, and we found that in Isaiah. Remember, he would call the nations from, right? And that's in both of those in Isaiah, and we have covered both of those. I talked about those pretty extensively. Even the ones at the ends of the earth, he would call them, right? And he'd be the banner or the rallying point for them. Okay. Now, when an army left a banner on a hill unattended, it was a sign of defeat. They left the banner and everybody ran off. So, if you guys know anything about the Civil War, right? The guy that carried the flag into battle, if he fell, somebody else picked it up. It was never left.
Yep.
Right? It was never left because they never signaled defeat, right? That's when the use of a white flag came into existence.
Mm-hmm.
Peace. We don't talk. Let's barter here,
Surrender.
right? Surrender, right? Okay. All right. Under this type of standard may be included the fiery serpent or bronze raised on a pole, which was to be the rallying point of salvation for the people. Remember when they got bit all by the snakes?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Put a fiery serpent on a stave and hold it above the people so they could all see it. And oh, by the way, on that fiery serpent it was around a scepter. You know that, right? There was a scepter in the center, and there was 2 snakes coiled around it.
Yes.
It's called a caduce, right?
Right. It's basically the sign for medical.
For medical, right? Well, nurses have
Today.
1 snake around it. Doctors have 2. And in the military, the corpsman, the medic in the military, not all medics, but at least in the Navy side of the house, we have 2.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes we have to be the doctor as well as the nurse.
Mm-hmm.
So we carry both credentials.
Especially in a combat situation.
In a combat situations, right? All right.
Was it Moses carry around something like that? And if the people looked at it, they didn't get by
Yes, that was
by
this.
mistake?
Yes, they would be healed from the bite of the serpent, and that's where they lost the 2,200.
Right. Because they looked up and had faith because they were looking up to.
Right. And once they had it in their sight and believed, then they would be cured. Right. He was proving a point to them. Right. All right. All right. So the third term you're going to see if you do your research is Oth, O-T-H, and it's used less frequently than Degel and Ness, and generally refers to a lesser banner, such as those that signals and signs. Now, in the military, if you're going into battle, they would use flags and lesser to signal right flank, left flank, forward, backwards, right? So in Numbers 2:2, we have, as we have seen it, is used to identify the smaller family within the entire division, the later being described by the Degel, right? So if you had, we had Reuben or whoever, is it Judah?
Judah or Dan or
Right, one of those. Then you would have the symbol of one of those tribes, and then within that tribe, you'd have another signal for a smaller group.
Right.
Usually the women would rally around food and children, and there would be a signal for that, and there would be a sign, a smaller banner, right? So in battle, you need to know who you're protecting and where they're at. And if you're out front and you look back and you see that flag still up, you know things still good.
Like a quail standing on a fence.
Like a quail on a fence, right? Standing there protecting the little ones, right?
Looking for them,
Right.
calling them.
All right. In Psalms,
I know, my brain works weird.
I know. Psalm 74:4 is used to speak of an enemy forces setting up their own signs or banners for signs. So if you seen them setting up in the distance, you knew where their supply was coming from, their support units and all that. So it was easy to.
Why do you do that? Why do you announce to
Well-
the enemy who you are?
Well,
I'm sneaking in.
Well, the enemy's doing the same
same
thing
thing you're doing.
They're
that's how war was back then.
That's how war was. Yeah.
That's how war was. They're setting up their rallying points. They're setting up their staging
Support
areas,
support
supports
units.
and units, stuff
Right.
like that. And this group and that group, and the archers had their
Mhm.
own, and the infantry
They had their own. The horse
cavalry
had their own, right? And the camel division, they had camels that went into battle.
Right.
The fleet-footed ones we talked about.
I didn't. I understand that they do it.
Yes,
The question was, why do they do it?
jungle.
That's okay.
That was the proper way to go to war.
The war. Yeah, that's
Back
why
then.
Moses could stand on this mountain on the side, and they held his arms up, and as long as his arms are up, they were blessed by God. Remember, but he could see the whole battle. They never attacked him. Right?
So
Yeah.
the Civil War actually was the first modern type warfare
Mm-hmm.
where none of that stuff happened.
It was all sneaking.
So before,
Well, actually,
if you looked at the Revolutionary War, the British still did all that, but we
Right.
did not. That's why they would come and say that we were dishonorable and quit
right.
shooting our officers and quit doing this and that. And we're like, no, that's
Yeah.
not how we play over here now. And then
Yeah.
the Civil War was the first modern war where both sides did
Yeah.
what we know as war. You hide all your stuff. You
Right.
don't announce. You sneak. You sneak
Yeah.
behind enemy lines. You try to cut them off from flanking.
Yeah, it's like guerrilla warfare. Yeah. Do you know there's an instance of guerrilla warfare that's in the Bible? And it was done by who? You guys won't believe who it is. It was Abraham. When he after Lot.
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
Yeah,
He took 38 of his men and took down an army, 4 armies.
Mm-hmm.
They snuck in.
Yeah, they snuck in at night and attacked from the sides and undercover. Like they actually studied that in the War College.
Yeah, that wasn't in Sodom. That was when
He was after Lot.
got Lot back.
All right. So we'll go on. Now, the New Testament does not speak of banners or ensign in a specific sense like the Old Testament. Okay. Luke designates the figurehead of the Alexandrian ship Castor and Pollux with the term perismos, meaning extraordinary, distinguished, marked, and not the expected word. Right? So they recognize the ships by different markings. Does that make sense? Well, if you look at a lot of the old movies, they always had that big carved figurehead on the front of it, right?
Yeah.
That's how they signified who they were from, what country they were from, or who they represented. Okay. Acts 28:11. You got that? What does it say?
It says exactly what you said. After 3 months, we put out to sea in a ship that had wintered in the island. It was an Alexandrian ship with the figurehead of the twin gods Castor and Pollux.
Right. Okay. So there's a connecting link between the testaments. Might be in the lexicon translation of Oth in Numbers 2:2. The term Simeon, which brings to mind the numerous occurrences of Simeon in the New Testament in the general sense of sign, mark, or signal. Right? Because if you went back to the Hebrew, it would be Oth, right? They would say, "Teacher, we wish to see Oth from you." OTH, a sign. Okay. And then Matthew, and then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. Then will appear the Oth of the Son of Man in heaven. Because the terminology just changed. That's all I'm trying to get across to you guys. When it was translated, it became sign banners, right? So it's just a background.
So it's the faction of it, basically.
Yeah, right. I like the one with Luke. It says, "No sign or no oath shall be given to it except the oath of Jonah." It got swallowed by the whale.
Right.
Okay. It is significant that the how do you say that, Dave? LXX. Septuagint. Septuagint. Yeah, that represents that. By the way, it's a Greek number. Seems to support the vowels view because in Numbers 2:2, degel is translated by the word tagma, which in the Greek literature is generally a military term meaning a detachment or division of soldiers. So degel would be that, wouldn't it? Right? I don't know what it's important though, because what you're going to see, I guess I can give you a little heads up on that one, right?
No, you don't have to.
Okay. Well, it actually is. We're just about done here for an hour. What'll happen, and you'll see it as it comes forward as I bring it up, as we go back and we go through tracing history. Most of our European ancestry came from castles and divisions of land in Europe, right?
Right.
They all had banners. They had crests. They had the crest replaced the oath, right? the banners and flags of the King of England or the tribe, or what not a tribe would be the
Scottish went to.
Irish and Scottish went to their clothing changed, right? The Vikings flew a particular flag at sea during the European period, right? What was the pirate ship? What did it have? Skull and crossbones, right? They flew that, right? So that's what I'm saying. You'll see, as we track that back, you're going to see these different things, and it might be called an oth, it might be called a ness, or it might be called a degel, and it wouldn't mean anything if you're reading it unless you knew the background, right? So as we track it back, our family names, our surnames, that'll come up, right? Okay. And that way you won't get confused because you can track the degel or you can track the nest, all right? Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
We should read chapter 49 of Genesis, right?
Read chapter 49 of Genesis. It'll just make everything clear for you.
Should do before next Bible study?
I started. Okay. I started with Asher, and I'm going to take each tribe and also give you some different references besides Numbers and Genesis. They're actually described in Deuteronomy. There's some in Job, and I'll actually give you a tracking point through time.
Okay.
Okay. Does that help?
Yep.
All right. So you'll see that coming up next week. Right. Or next week, huh?
Yeah.
All right. I hope it's not too confusing, but it will help you give a background, because when you start doing ancestry and tracking a surname back to an original Hebrew name, it changes spelling. It changes a lot.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's pretty interesting. I think we'll have fun doing it, and it'll be plain enough that other people can do it too, right? Mm-hmm. And if you have problems, you can always message us, and we'll help you. Fun. Yeah, I think it'll be almost like an outreach program to help people.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. All right.
But I got to find something good about these families before I decide to find out I belong to one of them. Come on. Maybe I want to be happy like Asher.
Yeah, one family of Asher, right? I think I must be one of those guys that sails the seas because I love the Navy.
I am not happy though, so I know I'm not Asher.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all we're going to do tonight, guys. It's 8:00. Yeah. You guys got any other questions? You guys doing good?
Nope, we're good.
All right.
No questions in the chat, so we're good too.
All right. Good. Okay. Well, I appreciate you guys listening to me get tongue-tied. So there's a lot of information in there. You know,
we're not laughing at you. We're laughing with you.
Yes. A nest is not necessary. She's throwing flags up at me over here. Okay.
Direction flags.
Directions, yeah. She gives me directions a lot, okay?
You got to get those Navy ones, though, that the ship's out. That's all Dan knows.
Yeah.
Hey, I learned about port and aft.
Yeah, port red wine. That's what you remember. Yeah. Anyway,
I know
okay.
what starboard is, too.
Yeah, starboard and aft, yeah. And everybody knows what the bow of the ship is. I mean, that was made famous in Titanic, wasn't it? The movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Off the bow of the ship. All right, Dave, you want to press now tonight?
Lord, we thank you for this study. Lord, we thank you that you've given the Dan the knowledge to put this together and present it. We just ask that you be with us the rest of this week, Lord, till we meet back as a congregation to worship you on Sunday, Lord. We ask that you give us be the light for those that are in darkness or are the darkness or in need of hope. And we just thank you in advance for that. We say all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, big guy. Appreciate it.
No problem.
All right. I'm going to
end the broadcast.
Yep.